Hi guys! Today I want to talk about something that I personally feel is very important to talk about. Especially these kind of conversations are so crucial with young adults, and I think this type of conversation needs to be normalized. Today I'm talking about finances, specifically how to budget and how to save your money. I made a video recently how to invest in your 20s. If you want to watch that, it will be up right here. So I figured I would kind of dive on a more specific issue, which would be budgeting, saving, and the importance of it, and how to do it, as well as tips and tricks. Well, I'm obviously not a financial advisor, but growing up for me and my family, I would personally say money was definitely on the tighter side. Then I saw the importance of budgeting and saving and the value that each dollar really has. I personally feel like there's this heavy push for overconsumption that is just not a good and healthy message to be pushed out. Well, of course it's fun to watch someone spending $1,000 on a bunch of fast fashion, but I don't think it's super healthy to promote that way of living. Obviously, everyone's situations is different, and just so many people can't even afford to think about doing that. I think with being young, especially in your 20s, there's this narrative about needing to live your life to the fullest. And a lot of people equate that with spending a lot of money on things that you can't necessarily afford. This is short-term pleasure. And I feel like we're constantly pulled between these two sides of let me save money for the future, but on the other side, you only live once, right? You're only young once. Why not enjoy your youth and your freedom? And I feel financial freedom and stability is the ultimate way to treat yourself and to truly appreciate yourself by making money and then spending it all, living paycheck to paycheck. It's at the cost of your own future. And I think it's really important to think about your future, your goals, and where you want to be and how you want to be living, and if you want to have a family and all those kind of things. The decisions that you decide to make now financially really will affect you in the future a lot of times. That means delaying some of that instant gratification. I think financial literacy and responsibility equates to freedom and empowerment and just really taking a hold of your life. The importance of being knowledgeable about your money, about how you are spending it, where it's going, etc. First off, we're going to talk about budgeting in case there's anyone out there who just has no idea what a financial budget is. Well, it's basically saying that you're only going to spend X amount of money in different categories each month. Obviously, with everything in this video, it's going to be extremely dependent person to person on your situation, on what you need to spend money on. It's going to be different person to person. So when it comes to making your budget, it's first and foremost super important to list out all of your expenses as well as all of your income. That is really kind of the first place to start, the way that I would recommend you to do it. If you never made a budget, just take a look at the last 3 months of expenses as well as income and kind of going off of that. So the way that I personally would do it is like this. you could use Mint, which is an online website that basically helps you manage your money and know where it's going. With Mint, you link your cards and your bank to it, and it will basically divide up all your expenses into different months as well as different categories, which in my personal opinion is extremely helpful to know where your money is going. In my opinion, it doesn't do it perfectly, and sometimes it's confusing. So for example, if I'm paying off credit card bill, or if I made bike, or if I made a Venmo to a friend, it obviously doesn't take that into account. So what I would do is go through Mint and then take all that information and still make your own spreadsheet. But Mint honestly makes it like 100 times easier, because it basically pre-organizes all of your expenses for you. So then when it comes to making that budgeting spreadsheet, you basically split it out into a bunch of different categories like rent, utilities, transportation, groceries, eating out, entertainment, and so on and so forth. In order to make a budget for the future, like I said, you have to kind of look at your past expenses. So I personally think it's important to go through all your expenses and divide it in those categories and look, okay, how much am I spending? How much money am I making? What debt do I have? What debt might I have to pay off? What do I want to add to my retirement? So make sure you got up exactly how much you're spending, so you can know where you're at. Like I said, I think it's easiest when you're starting out to basically just be very observant of what you're doing before you try to assign a set of budget and number to each category. It really helps to start off by keeping track on a weekly basis. There's other really great resources out there, like the Wine app. It is an app where you have to basically input all of your expenses as you spend money, which forces you to be very mindful of where your money is going, which I personally think is super helpful to just know where your money is going. So once you are kind of aware of your expenses as well as your incoming money, it can be kind of intimidating to figure out where to assign different amounts of money. I talked about this in my second budgeting video about the 50-30-20 rule that really can help you. I think it's a great rule if you're just not really sure where to start, how to divide up your money. Just visualize yourself a pie chart. You have different chunks in that pie chart. 50%, 30%, and the last chunk is 20%. So, first off, the 50% chunk of your income should be spent on things that are essential. For example, rent, utilities, transportation, phone bill, gas, groceries, and so forth. That's where you should be budgeting 50% of your money. 30% should be spent on things that are not essential but bring you joy. So think about dining out, entertainment, self-care, and so forth. So that area is where you get to have a little bit more fun. You know, live your life, but make sure you're not overdoing it in that category, because a lot of us, I feel, will tend to expand that 30% a little bit larger for, you know, new clothes and so forth. And then last but not least, the 20% portion should be spent on saving, paying off your debt, retirement, planning for a house, etc. I highly recommend starting an emergency fund. This is really important for saving for your future. I mean, clearly anything could happen. We are still in a pandemic right now, right? So idea at least 3 months. If you could work up to 3 months, that's amazing. And then try to work up to 6 months of savings, and then 12 months of savings if possible. This really helps a lot. It is just a cushion to have in case just when things go wrong, because they clearly do, and it's good to be prepared. I talked about this in the other video as well, but please start your retirement. Now is the time. The younger you start, the better. Basically, when it comes to building your retirement, it is compounded, so it's going to grow over time. The sooner you start, the better. If you do not have a job that provides a 401k, you can steer a Roth IRA on your own today and slowly start adding money to that. Your retirement is just growing slowly and it's getting there. So when it comes to tracking your money, within that you could put everything on your debit card or your credit card if you're trying to gain points. But again, be careful with credit cards. Do not spend more money than you have. But this could make it really easy for you to keep track of everything. If you really want to get a hold of your finances, if you're on a tighter budget and you really can't afford to go over that budget, there's the age-old cash envelope system. I saw my parents doing this growing up. But basically, at the beginning of the month, you draw out the money out of the bank, exactly what you need for the whole month. And you put it in different envelopes for that month. So you got your rent envelope, you got your groceries envelope, you got your gas envelope, and you put it in whatever you decide is an appropriate budget for that category. And once your coffee envelope is out of money, you know, no more Starbucks for you. And it kind of forces you to make sure you're spending within your means and not just being like, oh, I had a rough day, I'm going to get Postmates again and spend more than I should instead of like eating a meal at home, you know. Your envelope system isn't going to be, you don't get money for it. I feel like a lot of the tools that are a little bit stricter, like I said, are great at the beginning, and then with time, as you become more mindful with your money and where it's really going, you can kind of like push it up and find what works for you. But sometimes you just need a shock at the beginning to really get you into place. For me, creating a set of budget with a set amount of money at the beginning of the month isn't like a perfect system for me. I have tried that and it doesn't quite work. So basically for myself, at the end of every single month, I fill out a spreadsheet of everything that I spent money on for that month, and I break it down by section. Like I said, one thing that I do that's a little bit different and forces me to be more mindful of my money is that I will break down each section with specific items. So with my eating out section, I write down like I went to the sushi restaurant and I spent this much of money. I went to In-N-Out and I spent this much. I spent this much on Starbucks, and so I have 10 entries all for eating out for this specific month. As well as clothing, like if I got any clothing that month, I'll write down, okay, I got this specific shirt from this store, I got this jeans from here, and it really just forces me to be much more aware of where my money is going, because sometimes it can be easy to get new pieces for the PC or a book from Amazon, and when it's all grouped together in shopping, it's kind of a little bit harder to be keeping track of specifically where you are really overspending. I find it helpful for certain categories to list it out by item. If I bought like a pen, I'm not going to write that down, but for slightly bigger purchases that are considered extra, and things I don't necessarily need, I want to make sure I'm very aware and remind myself that I spend money on it. So, when it comes to saving money, we all have areas, for the most part, that we can cut back on all of these I mentioned. See, there's exceptions. Even if there's little where you can cut back, if you're determined to start saving, like in my case, I like buying new parts for my PC. I wanted a new GPU for the PC, and a lot of times like I want to update my workout equipment, but in order to justify these purchases, I have to make sure that I'm sacrificing in other areas. So if I'm going to get a new GPU, I'm going to make sure I'm not buying other stuff or just things that are excessive, that I don't need, and that I'm being careful of what purchases I'm making as my splurge purchases. I think another important thing is rethinking your luxuries. I feel like it's easy to justify, a cup of coffee every day or getting Postmates several times a week. It's like, oh, I treat myself well, yeah. But if you have big saving goals, like for example a new camera or car or even a home in the future, you need to rethink what your luxuries are and redefine them. That has really helped me mentally, because it can be easy to just say, oh well, I just want it, so I get it now. Like I've been working hard, so I'm just going to get it, when in reality I know that by purchasing that, it's going to take away from something bigger that I'm going to enjoy in the future, or potentially something that is a greater investment in my future. So for saving, I think it's really important to set yourself short-term goals and long-term goals. You can invest in yourself in different ways. For some people, a short-term goal might be buying something that's more of a splurge, or might be investing and traveling and kind of have the cultural experience. So kind of depends across the board, of course. But when you start to set those goals and have them in your mind, that looks like, let's say, I want to buy a house one day down the road and invest in real estate. When you have that idea planted in your head as an 18-year-old, 20-year-old, or maybe 25-year-old, it's gonna make a big difference in the way you view finances and the way you spend money day to day. It's also good and really important to keep in mind the differences between needs and wants when it comes to actually saving your money. I think a lot of times you can be like, I need this big apartment, I need more space. And it's kind of take a step back and reevaluate. Okay, do I actually need it? When I'm young, I can live in a less nice apartment, right? I would rather have it rough now than when I'm like 35 or maybe 40. Oh, do I need a car right now? No. Public transportation is cutting it for me, and it would be extra to do it otherwise. So I think it's good to ask yourself those things. When it comes to bigger purchases or investments, also within your finances, you can set up automatic withdrawals with your bank, which I personally think is really, really helpful when your income comes and you can say like, okay, 20% is going into savings off the bat. So you don't even see it, you don't even touch it, and therefore it's going to be set aside for an emergency fund, for your debt, or for a future investment. Spending time with people who have really bad spending habits and you aren't in the same position or have the same goals can really make a difference where your money is going. I think it's very important to be careful with comparison and to try to remove that kind of comparison, because you can see a friend spending $300 on a pair of boots, and it's really easy to compare yourself to them, but you really don't know where their money is coming from. You don't know if they have a credit card from their dad, or if they themselves are in a ton of debt. It's easy to see people live a certain way and wanting to imitate that. I personally think it's important to take a step back and focus on what's important for you. When it comes down to it all, it's about mastering what you have and how much you are making. I really love this quote from Warren Buffett. He says, "Don't save what's left after spending, but spend what's left after saving." So when it comes to wanting to be better with your money, save your money and just overall become more financially responsible. A big part of it is just shifting your mindset and revalidating what's important to you and evaluating the way that you see money and you spend money overall. I really hope these tips are helpful for you when it comes to learning how to budget, learning how to be much more mindful and responsible with your money, as well as saving for your future and, most importantly, yourself. Please let me know in the comments if you have any questions or if you have any tips that you think people should know. Please leave a comment and also make sure to smash the like button, because that's always appreciated on my channel. I wish you guys the best, and I will see you guys in the next video.